Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin. We're here in the virtual world. It's 2024 and it's about time for Monaco. In the real world, just because I was recording well in advance because it being deadline season in the real world for me, that's now passed. I'm recording this as of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend where Pierre's not having a fun time. Hopefully, he can have a little bit more enjoyment here. Although last time I did scupper his... I did scupper his chances last time by not pitting / putting him on the wrong tyres at the wrong time, and Mick ended up getting his best race of the season though, so positives there. Also, because in-game it's only been about 4 days, there's no news regarding this, but because I'm now freed up that little bit more, there are going to be more videos per week on this channel going forward, particularly in this month of May that's coming up. Starting with 3 videos this week. However, the third of those videos, which will be Wednesdays, is going to be Football Manager with a new series that isn't really a new series. You'll understand what I mean on Wednesday when that drops. By the way, I've been uploading at 5 PM recently just because I had issues with the video that kind of forced me to upload it later, and I kind of did it without saying anything just to see how it would play out. Not really noticed too much difference on my end, so I'm going to be sticking with 5 o'clock. Let me know what you think in regards to upload times, what's best for you and all that jazz, because I've not really noticed too much difference. I will say thank you for the support, as always. Continuing on. But yes, Football Manager back with 1 video this week, which may shift to 2 videos literally the week after because I'm enjoying playing through and recording that already after just 1 video. Well, 2 now I've recorded, but back to the Formula 1. We'll go through practice. It is Monaco, so I probably should have actually got a few more bits in stock just in case. But I'll see you for quali. Hello! So there we are. Practice is all done and dusted. Carlos Sainz tops the times. Jack Doohan finishes 7th, and keep an eye on K-Mag, who was consistently up there all weekend. Did finish 3rd practice P10 just because we got our act together. There's obviously the end with a fast lap, but K-Mag up there consistently. Now, I don't know if he's going to do it the same way as Zhou Guanyu last time, who we were sort of keeping an eye on, who didn't do quite as well as we were expecting. But K-Mag, and maybe Haas as a whole, but Vettel was 18th. Big steps forward. We'll see. But yeah, no issues. It generally took till 3rd practice to anyone to crash, and then 2 people did, and not enough to cause an issue. So a surprisingly tame practice sessions there, which has me concerned, quite frankly. But yeah, no issues. I'm almost tempted to use the not as good engines just because it's Monaco. But I am going to actually have to use the last gearbox on Mick just to make sure we've got all of them out of the way, just in case there's issues going forward. I do think I might take the penalties with Pierre next race, which is Baku, because you can see Pierre's situation here. He's got an engine that's basically gone. He's got an ERS that's already gone, and he's already lost a gearbox, of course. So I'm thinking I'd take the full round of things in Baku, where things can happen, to bring you back into the race. Whereas with Mick, we might have to wait a little bit longer just because his parts overall aren't as bad. He's got an engine that's a bit dodgy, and that's it, really. I don't know which engine to use. Even the rubbish engine is good for 1 or 2 more practice sessions. Weekends worth of practice sessions. That shouldn't hit 30, which I think is the danger point for another 2 races. Right, off we go. I'm using the better ones for Mick. If he crashes now, I'm going to be annoyed. Of course, that's the other consideration, actually, putting in the slightly less good ones in case there's an accident. And then you still got the good ones, of course, from the time. No one gets in our way for our first flying lap, so this should be a nice secure point. 109.9 for Pierre. Half a second down, really, for Mick there. I mean, you've got to assume hindrances have got Bottas and Magnussen there. And just knowing the way the game works, I think Pierre's fine there. 2 more to cross the line. Doohan might be faster than Mick. He's been relatively decent all week. He does just squeak it. Well, we'll assume there's more from Bottas and there's probably more from Magnussen, let's be real, just based on his practice times. Pierre, 100% fine. Mick, 6/10 away from being in danger. I think Mick goes out. I think he'll be fine, but I think Mick goes again just in case of insanity, because I don't really know how much hindrance there is for these people. You can see Hamilton to Ocon, 5/10. There might be more in Ocon's pace. The Alfa Romeos, both of them being behind, feel kind of okay with that. Norris can always pull out time. Ricciardo's significantly behind. Albon to Doohan as well. There's a big old gap there, which you'd expect Albon to recover. And then there's Bottas and Magnussen. So I think there's enough people behind to provide a bit of concern for not going out. I do think there are 5 slower cars in the form of the 2 Alphas and Ricciardo for certain. But we know the Alpines and the Alfa Tauris have more in them, along with Bottas and Magnussen. So I think there's exactly 5 cars who are definitely slower, but we're not going to risk it. In fact, actually, I'm just going to click go now just to make sure I end up behind a car that is definitely not slower than us by much. So it's a McLaren ahead. Is it Norris? No, it's Ricciardo, unfortunately, but not gonna really give it too much attention this, because I think we're going to be fine, but we'll see. I mean, the gap to Ricciardo on the road doesn't look superb. He has done an incredible job of catching him off one build-up lap. I thought he'd be all right, but he's getting weirdly close. And I don't know whether or not the Merc behind just literally came out that far behind him in the first place, or if he's actually pulled away from him. I was going to question whether or not it was Bottas and he had an issue, but no, Bottas is the one in front of him on the road. So we'll see what Bottas does here. He's one of the people that we're sort of expecting to leapfrog. Sainz doesn't leave a faster time than he did first round. All right, so he goes 5th. Leclerc jumps us as well. That's not an issue for Gasly. There's already 5 people slower than him. Mick jumps to 6th. Okay, so Mick had more in his locker. Ocon does find time, but not enough. Norris finds time, but doesn't really do much. Sargent and Tsunoda have both found time, but there goes Magnussen into 6th. I told you he was good. But Albon didn't find the time, and neither did Vettel. So my prediction of the 2 Alfa Romeos was a little bit off, but they weren't too that safe. The 5 guaranteed slower were the 2 Williams, the 2 Alphas, and Ricciardo, in my opinion. Based on what I've seen from the other drivers in the Haas and the AlphaTauri, I thought they might have more in their locker, but apparently not. All this means is, of course, Pierre's got another set of tyres, so we'll get a flying lap out and again, no hindrances, so that's nice. Other people might be getting in other people's ways. Hamilton and Perez unrestricted 2 here. Mick very close to Perez. So in Q2, we'll definitely expect the 2 Alfa Romeos to go, and Ocon, who doesn't seem to be on it, at least in comparison to his teammate, who is 7th as things stand, doing on the cusp. Mick outside of the top 10 as things stand, actually, but we know he can find time. He finished Q1 7th, I think. I mean, I'd argue Gasly's fine again, actually, but we might as well send him out. We'll just try and get Mick behind him, so we know he's not catching anyone. As if we're ever allowed out at all. Fortunately, we've ended up behind Doohan, who isn't that slow, to be fair. We'll go on board as he takes his flying lap of Q2 here in Monaco. 30 seconds on the clock, no issues there. Just one of the Alfa Romeos and the Magnussen last on the road. But Magnussen's in 8th. Does have Perez behind him. Does have Mick behind him. Does have Norris behind him. So I think there's 3 people who could push Magnussen out. As he takes the hairpin chicane. Now to the right hand is towards the tunnel. And into the tunnel Mick goes. He's on a slower first sector because of course he has. Fresh tyres, slower sectors. That's what it always means for Mick. I can't work him out, frankly. Perez does jump to 8th. Not that much of a gain for Perez. Master of the street circuit, struggling for whatever reason. As I think Sainz finds a tiny bit more time. He does. Leclerc finds a bit of time, but doesn't get any better than 4th. It doesn't really matter to him. Ocon, well, briefly found 15th before Zhou found 12th. Stroll yet across line, of course. Doohan jumps Magnussen again, as I thought he might. Mick does a better middle sector. Doesn't jump at all. He must have done a worse last sector. Stays 11th, does Mick. That's disappointing. He couldn't find his Q1 time. His Q1 time, he did a 1:10.2, which would have seen him 7th again. In fact, that time would have seen him exactly 6th by 1,000th of a second to K-Mag. Pierre's found 2/10ths between Q1 and Q2, though. Oh, at least it gives Mick a fresh set of softs in case he needs them, but we'll go on to the used for Pierre. Might as well save one for Pierre as well, just by using used here on his first run. As again, no one gets in his way. Always nice. A 109.8 is sort of slap bang between his 2 fastest times. We'll put on the Q3 tyres. Sainz slower on his first run. Now that is interesting because they'll have gone on to their Q3 sets. So in theory, no one will go faster than they already have, but unless they've made a mistake, of course. And Verstappen does fastest of all. I think that's an improvement for Verstappen. Came back at an issue on his first lap, which I'm not going to put him in the best stead. Doing 6th. Didn't even see that. Wonder how his race is going to get ruined. He won't be allowed to stay there, that's for certain. He'll probably be the one to crash and cause the first safety car. Well, we know Gasly's on par with these lot, so as soon as I see any Red Bull or Ferrari, I'm sending him. Just in the hope we find a gap between fast cars, rather than coming out behind. Actually, to be fair, out of that lot, who's actually worse? I think we've come out behind the AlphaTauri, which is horrible news, because I'd argue he's the slowest of the lot. Not by much, even though he is currently 6th. I think Perez, Hamilton, Russell and Magnussen can actually all go faster than him. But Magnussen's obviously ruined his tyres. Oh, there's a big old gap to the other Red Bull. Well, Gasly's not really caught Doohan on his out lap, so that's not too bad. Might allow him a nice little slipstream up the hill here. For whatever bit he can actually catch a slipstream on. Similarly down towards the hairpin too. Of course, on brand new tyres he does a slow first sector, because why on earth wouldn't you? F1 Manager 23 just announced. Sort it out, please. One of the biggest problems that needs fixing is the tyre wear and relative pace of fresh sets, etc. and the differential between them, quite frankly. Whilst they kind of got the differential more towards what it actually is, Pierre does the fastest middle sector of all, somehow, as he almost runs into the AlphaTauri through the final chicanes. The Ferraris don't improve, which is interesting. Hamilton does improve, which I was kind of expecting from him. Pierre's on pole. Verstappen's behind him on the road. Verstappen is behind him on the road. Verstappen crosses the line, doesn't go faster. And Magnussen does obviously get time back off his mistake, but not enough to get better than 10th, which is a shame because he was better than that. And a special shame for Mick Schumacher, who probably did a faster time than him. He did. Mick's Q2 time was faster than Magnussen's Q3 time, which is irritating. And Mick's Q1 time would have been good enough for 7th. That's the fine margins of Monaco. But Pierre on pole for a second week in a row. What happened to Carlos Sainz, who was on it in Q1 and Q2? And then just randomly 109.9. Leclerc with the consistency in the last two ones there. 109.999 twice. How do you manage that, Pierre? Okay, one stop. We can't do soft to hard, so keeping a fresh set of softs is always nice, and particularly Pierre off the lead. Okay. So whilst you can do a one stop, do I want to? Screw it. We'll risk it. We both got fresh sets, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do, though. I'm not going to push the pace. Because it's Monaco, you can sort of pull back on the tyres if you want. So I'm actually not going to put him on 5 tyres for a change. Oh, someone had a penalty. I didn't see whom.
It's time for one of the most exciting races in the world. This is the Monaco Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Crofty calling it one of the most exciting races in the world. I mean, quite often it ends up being a bit of a procession. I think it's Jack Doohan that had a penalty because he's behind Mick and did briefly actually get him, but he's got him back again. So I was wondering how Jack Doohan's excellent qualifying was going to be ruined, and that was how, by having a penalty, inexplicably. But we'll push the field and push the ERS for this first lap, as the front 4 all started on softs. Leclerc, Hamilton and Russell on mediums, which might make Mick's decision a bit stupid thinking about it, but particularly behind Magnussen now as he is. But Gasly's lost Verstappen on lap 1, and Mick has dropped Doohan to just outside DRS range. But he is effectively now being dictated pace by K-Mag. And we'll come back in, his former teammate. In fact, he's enjoyed the back of K-Mag's Haas a little bit too much in recent races. It's not the first time this year, and he's going to be held up by his former home. But Verstappen, 1.5 seconds behind now, being hounded by Sainz, who clearly likes this track. It's been a cracking start so far. The issue here for Mick, of course, comes from the fact that whilst he's technically being dictated the pace by Magnussen, in fact, actually, with that in mind, there's no real point pushing his fuel.
DRS will be active.
Everyone will have DRS. We sort of just have to wait for Magnussen not to have DRS. There's not a lot we can do here at Monaco. This isn't the one where we obviously have the ability to control the cars ourselves. It's entirely down to the AI. We can't find a sneaky opportunity that no one in real life would probably take. And Mick's overtaking and defending ability isn't that great, but overtaking at least is the better of his 2 attributes, I think, in that respect. So we just let Pierre run away for a little bit. I'm actually not going to push his fuel any harder than that because I will expect a safety car at some point.
Okay.
I'm happy to just hold a 2-second lead because at the very least I know I've not randomly and pointlessly burnt fuel only for that lead to be wiped out by a safety car later on. If he continues to push our lead even whilst not pushing the fuel, then great. But in fact, with a 2-second lead, just take it easy, mate. We'll let Pierre take it easy, who is worse on his tyres than Mick, as we found out last race, to our detriment. I mean, we knew he was, but I wasn't expecting 8 smoothness ticks to be worth that much difference. I watched that back in the edit just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. And when the safety car happened, I think the difference between Sainz and Gasly was about 1 or 2% on the tyres, and it finished up being 7 or 8% by the end of the race, about 12 laps later. It was ridiculous, the difference between the tyre wear rates for what is 80 versus 88 in that case, I think. Ridiculous, the tyre wear rate difference there. Also, F1 Manager 23, please sort out Perez's tyre, because that is ridiculous, the fact that he doesn't have like 99, and Leclerc has the best of everyone. Sort it out. Sort it out, Frontier. Okay, so on late tyre wear, Pierre is actually just sort of maintaining the gap. He's not gaining, not losing, so I'm happy with that. And with Mick being in a train, I could probably do the same with him.
Back off.
Unfortunately, this is where it does become a bit of a procession. And I think, to be fair, even if Mick does start to lose on Magnussen somehow, then he'll just get it back. I can just tip him back onto just driving normally and he'll catch back up again, I imagine. But Norris not keeping pace is interesting in 12th. I mean, I suppose this is a train of cars all being pulled along by Russell. Kind of really Norris versus Russell here, more than anything. Oh, actually, Pierre is not keeping pace with Verstappen, who has actually got to 1.7. So we'll just tip him back up to driving normally for a little bit, Pierre, and we'll just monitor that. But Mick's in a solid spot just to recover basically everything, really. Weird that I pulled Mick off fuel a lot earlier than Gasly, and yet he's still on exactly the same he was when I pulled him off then, and yet Gasly's gained 0.1 back in the time that he's been off, which makes no sense. Ah, there we go. Mick's finally got a tiny bit back. I think he's on the borderline. All right, so Gasly back out to 3 seconds. Back onto light, I think. I think they're fighting each other, which is helping. But yeah, there's no point holding a huge lead here, because a safety car can just wipe it out in an instant. So he might as well just recover those tyres as best as he can. So he's not in a situation where he's suddenly... And we know, of course, that Sainz behind... I say we know. They didn't have fresh tyres, so they're on 60%. They will pit. Which is probably actually why he's got that extra pace on them. Actually, that's the point from Mick here. Mick is on a similar level to Durham behind, who has obviously horrific smoothness attribute. As we saw, this is 44. He's got exactly half the smoothness of Mick. So on the medium tyres, he's already at the same tyre wear. So I do wonder if there's going to be a point where both Perez and Magnussen fall out of this, and Mick will just be able to drive. I love the fact that Durham's tyre wear is actually going off faster than Mick's is. But the gap at the front maintaining itself for the time being. In fact, it's actually growing for the time being. How are we doing in terms of staying on track here? Not too bad. It's kind of mostly about extending the soft tyre as long as possible, just in case there's an incident after them lot have pitted. I can see some people doing the reverse strategies, by the way, of hard to soft. Ooh, Magnussen, 8/10 off Perez. Are we getting close to the point where Magnussen is going to end up outside of the DRS? It's been 17, like I say, it's been 17 laps, literally nothing has happened. Welcome to Monaco. Admittedly, that still is only about 1/5 race distance. We're only 20% of the way through this race. But I feel like Magnussen is on the cusp of not keeping up. And Mick's got his fuel back at this point. Not this lap. I'm almost tempted to put Mick on full conserve tyre here, such as his ability just to stay behind him, as Gasly continues actually to grow the gap out front, even on conserved tyre. In fact, Perez is dropping off now. Okay, so their tyres have gone sub 40. God bless Jack Doohan and his horrific smoothness attribute. But I wonder when they'll pit, because it's 10 laps until the strategy pit. For everyone, everyone's on the lead lap, so it's 10 laps for everyone. That's on a soft tyre right now. That's what the indication is. And we know every strategy here is one stop as standard. So I'm fascinated by how they think that's actually ever going to be relevant. Sainz's tyres are 14%. We're in the reverse as we were last race. Sainz's tyres are 14% worse. I'm surprised Leclerc isn't hounding them more. Leclerc is 3.5 seconds behind them. I'm surprised he's not catching, actually. What is their last lap? About equal. 10th faster. So on the basis that the sort of predicted pit stop, the original pit stop, is 9 laps away, I wonder if this lot are even going to pit before 30%, let alone 40. Because bear in mind, the fresh tyre was predicted to hit exactly 30% on, well, just under, actually, the lap after, I think. Or the lap before where we were scheduled to pit. So this lot who didn't have 100% fresh softs to begin with, they're going to be hitting that 30% a good 3 or 4 laps before the scheduled pit stop. So Perez is a full second out of Russell now. So I wonder if we try and get Magnussen. Because if we can get Magnussen, we can get... Oh, he's done it. He's done it. Hang on. Has he done it? He's still on the inside. He's still going for it. He's still going for it.
That's it.
Don't be a weird yield here. I should have harvested thinking about it. Okay, so that was important. You might as well conserve through this part because you can't overtake until DRS. Did I miss the replay button? Or was it yet to come in? I feel like I missed the replay button whilst I was managing him. In fact, harvest through this section. Just in case there's any ERS use through this section normally. All right, go for it again here, Mick. You've got DRS. Go for it. Before we even get to the corner. Lovely work. Didn't quite have it in storage as I thought he did, but in fact, you might as well just push for that tiny bit there. We'll watch this replay again because I missed the other one. Overtakes in Monaco. You love to see it in the one place where you can actually do it in F1 Manager. I think realistically, unless there's like a huge speed differential, this is the only place where you can do it on F1 Manager. I think the only other place where you can probably just about get away with it is into the swimming pool. Oh, literally into the, you know what I mean, out of the tunnel. But he's doing the same time as Russell is, obviously on mediums ahead of him. But I mean, the first thing is to break the second to Perez. That's why I've not taken him back on his tyres just yet. I think Perez might have DRS for 1. I just want to see if he's actually catching up first and foremost. Not by much. Oh, he's gone under on fuel again. I think we're okay to just drive Mick normally for a little bit here. Like, they've dropped Perez significantly. He is going faster than Russell by about 4/10 a lap, in theory. Meanwhile, Pierre's just driving round. The important thing here is to actually work out what the actual pit lane loss is. So as soon as one of this lot pit, we'll find out. Unless they all pit at the same time as we do. Just trying to see if Mick's actually not catching George now. So apparently Mick's pit window is 4 laps away. I mean, they're both 4 laps away for both of them. Russell's obviously going longer is part of the problem. Maybe if I just push the tyres a bit, push the fuel a little bit with Mick, see if we can get him into DRS range on Russell, and that actually is getting him in DRS range. Nearly. Okay, so Verstappen's just pitted. So to leader, Sainz is 6 seconds. Verstappen was with him. We see where he comes out. Pierre on 44% as well. I think, unfortunately, Mick's just getting to that 1 second mark, and now his tyres have gone. Magnus has pitted, Perez has pitted. But, I mean, the marker point is Verstappen because they would have been running with Sainz, roughly. So we'll see what the to leader is on Verstappen on the basis that he would have been around 6 seconds with Sainz. Maybe a little bit behind, depending on which way around they were. So it was either 6 or 7. So it's 19 seconds in the pits, there or thereabouts. What does the report say? 20 seconds. So that seems to be about on point, 20 seconds. So Mick is just within the pit stop window for Pierre as things stands. So Mick's is Ocon right now, plus Bottas and Magnussen, but they were Bottas was ahead of him, Magnussen was behind him. They're on hards, and Joe is going to be joined. Last lap, Mick 1:59, Ocon 1:59. So Mick's about to hit the cliff, basically. I might as well start driving Gasly normally here. Oh, Ocon did a 1:17. Ocon hadn't crossed the line. Well, he's doing his fastest lap. He's doing his fastest first sector is Ocon. We don't need to react to this, but we know he was about 6.5 seconds behind. So we'll see where he comes out. In fact, Sainz might come out behind Mick. He does, yeah. Obviously, because Verstappen's behind as well. There goes Perez as well, most importantly. Leclerc's gaining on Gasly. This is interesting. Has Gasly hit traffic? Oh, Gasly hit traffic. That's not good news. He'll still come out comfortably ahead of Verstappen and Sainz. Okay, so maybe it's worthwhile pitting then. I think we can leave Pierre out until his tyres are about to be gone. Whereas Mick to leader, still Ocon. We're getting close to the point where it's a risk. I think Mick goes now. I think we're good for another lap with Pierre. I'm just all bearing in mind that he's worse on his tyres. Because what tyre advantage we had on the softs, just by virtue of having fresh ones, we won't have on the hards. And getting to the end was already sketchy enough. So we'll sort of allow that to hit that 22 mark. We'll watch Mick's pit stop.
Pit limiter.
It's that gap to Verstappen that matters. Mick should come out ahead of Ocon, which is kind of what we're targeting here. Bottas remarkably hasn't taken Zhou, which is what I was kind of hoping for. But this will allow him to get right up in his gearbox. I've just realised Russell, 49%. Russell, 49%. So 40% would be roughly 30 laps. It's interesting that their tyres are on 49% after exactly 30 laps when it's, in theory, only 24. I think even without being on light, I think you would actually run ahead of schedule. But I think they will be close to... I think they'll be under 40 by the end, just driving normally. What I was trying to assess there is how long is it before Russell pits? Because Russell's going to be a problem. He's doing 1:16.1s and Verstappen's doing 1:14.7. Size pitted, so ignore that one. Verstappen's going about a second and a half faster than Russell, which means so will Gasly when he pits. If I was to pit him now. But at the same time, I have to pit Pierre now, otherwise there's a chance Verstappen ends up ahead. If we have an issue on our pit stop, Miles will attack, Miles will push the fuel.
Box.
I can't allow Verstappen to get within 23 seconds. Because 22 is what it says is like the worst case scenario. 20 is about the right thing. And I think 19 is probably with like a really good stop where you come out. And Pierre's tyre life, he can only do maybe 1 or 2 laps at best anyway. So Pierre comes in now. Just need to make sure the second he leaves those pits, I take him off, attack the tyres. There goes Hamilton. Wait, he got out ahead of Russell. Oh no, he's on the inside of Russell. Is he going to get out ahead of Russell? No, he's not. But he'll have DRS on him straight away. How did you do that? Don't push either for now, mate. What's your gap to Russell? 1 second. Will he be in DRS by the end of the lap? Based on Max's times to Russell, Gasly will get the 10th quite quickly. Here he needs. Yeah, he's already within DRS. So I'm thinking we tell him to overtake when we get out the other end of this. Zhou seems to be struggling. So I'm actually going to tell Mick to harvest because he's only 2 seconds behind Bottas and Bottas can't get past Zhou. Sorry, Bottas is struggling. Oh, Hamilton's just pitted. Oh, Russell pits this lap. Never mind then. No bother overtaking. Perfect timing from Pierre then, really? Because he's got DRS now as well for a lap. I wasn't expecting them to go this lap. I thought they had another few in the tank. So Pierre only pitted 1 lap earlier than the medium runners. And I told Schumacher to harvest that lap as well, which was stupid. Because now Russell might end up ahead of him. Ooh, he did not. So with only 2% worse hards, Mick's jumped Russell through the pit stops. Good work from Mick, really, in the end there. Even though I just told him to harvest on that lap, which was a mistake. Even though he was harvesting, he still gained a second because they're all being held up. In fact, no, I think Hamilton may have come out on pit exit with Zhou and caused a problem. Because Mick's gained a huge amount of time. Just going to make sure he ends up within a second here. Get him in that DRS train. So that tiny bit I harvested, used. But so Mick now can't do anything. So I'll just tell him to conserve fuel. We'll target that first, and then maybe we'll target the tyres. But until Zhou pits or Bottas does something, we're trapped. Which does kind of gives Hamilton free reign on 5th here. But Bottas pitted first, so his tyres will in theory be in worse condition than Mick's, and they're relatively similar in terms of smoothness rating. But Zhou won't pit until late 40s, 50 maybe. Mick goes to defend from Russell, which is interesting. To be fair, I think Mick will get that fuel back regardless. We've got it to point 3. If we need to harvest a bit more later on, then that's fine. Russell's going for it. I don't like that. Let's start a 40-second lead for Pierre. I think at this stage of the race, we'll just go light on those tyres. We could sort of allow that to go down to about 3 seconds, I guess, before we start driving normally again. Just do a bit of tyre preservation, because I know he's going to be worse on his tyres than... Although he doesn't seem to be doing too badly on the hards. I guess they're just a more durable tyre to begin with, so the differential isn't that much obvious. So the gap maintaining at 3 seconds as Pierre's reached back markers again. It's Tsunoda. That's regaining 1 lap. I guess Tsunoda pitted, then we lapped him, and then we pitted, so he unlapped himself. Meanwhile, Schumacher is... Oh! Bottas has got Zhou. I've come back at exactly the right moment. Bottas has got Zhou, finally. So... Oh, Mick's not getting his fuel back. Why is Mick not getting his fuel back? So through this portion of the lap, we conserve. And then purely for the straight, where the DRS is, and Zhou's lost the... We'll set him to attack here. I mean, you're going to go the long way around here, Mick, but I think you've got the speed for it.
That's it.
We'll go back to neutral there, back to balanced, and off you pop. Lovely work. I should have watched that replay again, but never mind. So Gasly's now free of both the Williamses. Sainz and Verstappen just on the tail of getting Sargent here. So Zhou on very old hards is losing time. Mixed outside the DRS to Bottas. So I'm half tempted. I know he's close to running out of fuel as is, but I'm half tempted to try to get him in within DRS, so then I don't need to actually stay within DRS. Like so. Because if you end up behind someone, you sort of save fuel as a result, normally. And if we get to sort of within 25 laps and we've still not got it, then it took Russell a little bit longer to get past Zhou by the seemingly, because he's 3 seconds behind now. Russell go marginally faster than both of us. The gap from Gasly to Sainz still 3 seconds. That doesn't appear to be too much of a problem. Kind of on course just to be okay by the end of the race. How are they doing on their tyres? Still 3% behind. Oh, did Zhou have a moment? Because Perez and Magnussen are both well clear of him now. Zhou 116, Perez and Magnussen 114s. Interesting. Mick saving fuel, being behind Bottas. He's gained 0.2 in the 4 laps he's been behind Bottas. It's a good race for Mick. I didn't actually do it. Well, mind you, I suppose I couldn't go anywhere from first. And Gasly caught Ricciardo, who is started on the hards, in fairness, and that's not gone well for them. It's not gone too badly for Zhou. He's just hit 40% on his hards, but I think with a pit stop, he will end up behind everyone else who's already pitted, and there he goes, in fact. And interestingly, comes out directly ahead of Sainz and Verstappen.
We're not okay.
I know that. Still got 25 laps, but he's been saving fuel behind Bottas, so I think we'll be okay. We might need to go hard conserve if we get like 20 laps so we're not like within 0.2. And there it is. There's 0.2. We're on the borderline of 0.2. So I think we'll be okay because we've done that 55, so 23 laps from the end. Bear in mind, he was on 0.5 under on lap 45, I think it was. So he's gained 0.3 in 10 laps, being behind Bottas. So I think he'll be okay. Russell is gaining, by the way. Bottas is 70 seconds behind Hamilton. He's not catching Hamilton. So there's no real point trying to force Mick past Bottas here. In fact, Mick's only just holding on, I think, through the rest of the lap. I say just. No crashes, which is interesting. A surprisingly tame Monaco Grand Prix so far. Not even like an off or just a love tap with the wall, as far as I can tell. Yeah, so Russell's now... Well, we're now in a Merc sandwich, basically. And there's 0.1 on lap 59. So we're kind of gaining that 0.1 every 4 or 5 laps. Unfortunately, this is just dot watching simulator at the moment. Gasly is getting caught up to Stroll in 13th. He's doing a blinding race, really. He's lapped up to 13th. I know it's a 78-lap race, but I think Gasly will lap effectively up to the points positions. I think he'll get Norris and Doohan before the end of this race. 17 laps to go. There's a chance he even gets Magnussen, as Leclerc's lapped up to Ocon in 15th. It's on fastest lap. They're new soft runners, aren't they? Yeah. So Ricciardo, who went from hard to soft, has got Tsunoda back and pulled 10 seconds out on him. Vettel's still yet to catch, apparently. Oh, he's actually just on the back of him. Down in 20th. Poor Vettel. Vettel and Magnussen running 2 very different races at the moment. In fact, there is something to pay attention to here, because we're about to hit that traffic. We're about to hit Tsunoda and Vettel here, and it's all about where we catch them. I've got an awful feeling we're also just about to catch them in a very bad spot. Now, Vettel's obviously trying to overtake Tsunoda here, and hasn't achieved it by the looks of things. We have dropped Perez, which is quite nice. It's all about where we catch these two, because I was tempted to harvest with Mick a little bit. I think we might get them through the tunnel / after the swimming pool. But I think Bottas will definitely get them in the tunnel. Well, that being said, actually, no, I could have actually harvested with Mick on this lap, but I don't really want to lose Bottas. Oh, this has got awkward now. Seb! Get out of our way, Seb!
Wow.
What?
Only P8.
Excuse me, game. I mean, this race was without instant, and then...
Russell.
What? We've been robbed there. I mean, it's minimal points, 7th and 8th, but that is ridiculous. How is that allowed? How is that bug not being picked up? More important, is Mick faster than Russell? No. So we've been utterly mugged off there because we can't push our fuel now to get caught up. Can't push our tyres to get caught up. We can't push anything to get caught up. So we've been utterly robbed there. So the only thing we can hope is I can see Sargent. I'm going to guess Ricardo is on his tail as well. He is, yeah. In fact, oh, actually, Mick has got caught up. I mean, I can't push his fuel, but he hasn't quite lost Russell the way I thought he had. Meanwhile, Gasly's still 3 seconds ahead of Sites. Just having a lovely, nice day out in Monaco is Gasly right now. I think he lives here, so I think he's one of those drivers. Right, so Mick now ticked over to plus 0.0 on his fuel for the first time today since the start. Gasly's still got 0.4 in his wheelhouse in case they need to push him at any point. Perez didn't hold Vettel didn't hold Perez up annoyingly, so he's within DRS range of Mick now, which is unfortunate because now Mick's going to have to defend, which is going to slow him down. We got utterly mugged off there. I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. Ironically, if I had harvested and pulled off from Bottas, peeled off a little bit from behind, we might have caught Vettel on the straight rather than that chicane, and that wouldn't have happened. And we'd have some DRS to boot. I can't believe Vettel of all people as well. What do you think it was What do you think was happening there? Was you just stopping to have a chat with Mick? Vettel's actually stuck with us, by the way. 6 laps from the end. Ocon still has fastest lap, just to be irritating. Everyone's on about 46% tyres. Gasly's got some fuel in hand. Gasly has actually lapped up to Magnussen. Well, no, actually, he's about to catch Magnussen, I think. Yeah. Yeah, Magnussen's just entering the tunnel and Pierre's going around the chicane. He's got 5 laps to catch him. I think he'll just be all right. That's Magnussen actually there. So, no, I don't think he will catch him. I think he might catch Tsunoda a second time, but I don't think he'll catch Magnussen. I'm going to say the only hope from Mick, now 4 seconds off Russell, unfortunately, because he's having to defend. The only hope from Mick was if somehow Ricardo Sargent became a thing in terms of Bottas lapping them and getting held up by them. But Bottas and Russell haven't called them. So, all irrelevant in the end, really. What was the fastest lap, out of curiosity? Because I'm just thinking, Gasly's got a lap's worth of rear rest because he hasn't touched it. He's got half a kilogram of fuel, which is more than enough. And he's got 3 seconds on sides. I think we allow the gap to go down to 2.5 seconds whilst saving tyres. Actually, no, why don't I just do it now? I'm not going to push the tyres. Oh, he's actually going to get a lapped car on this lap, I think. I just realised I was watching the wrong driver. Actually, maybe not this lap. Oh, Sainz has got caught on traffic somewhere because that gap's just got massive. So he will get this Williams before the end of this lap, I think. Yeah, there we go. Right. So around the last 2 corners, Pierre goes. Now push. Now normal on tyres. Now deploy. Yeah, so he did a personal best first sector before I stopped him. So now with no traffic ahead of him on this lap, we can go for it. Mick's still holding Perez off, which is nice. Bottas still hasn't caught Sargent. So fastest first sector for him. It's not a purple sector, interestingly. Leclerc's actually getting close to Verstappen. I think traffic has held them up. It held Sainz up initially, like a huge margin. I believe it to be Norris that's caused the problem. Yes, Norris and Duran have caused the problem. I'm not sure he's going to get fastest lap here. He's done personal best, but I don't think he's going to get fastest lap. No, unless he does a blinding third sector. Ocon on a soft was way too much. Oh, he has done fastest lap. How? How did he do that without going purple in any sector? Sorry, how can you not go purple in any sector and still get fastest lap? What was Ocon's fastest lap, out of curiosity? 1:13.5 when he put it onto softs. I presume that to be. Well, it's a few laps after. Yeah, it's a few laps after he came in for softs, but I guess they don't do purple sectors. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll take that point. Thank you, Esteban. Yeah, so Mick's not in danger of being lapped here. Well, we just got to bear in mind he is essentially a lap behind, almost. So Mick's about to start lap 77, whilst Pierre's about to finish lap 77. All right, so he's crossed the line. I'm conscious of the fact he's got plus 0.2 here. So Pierre about to start the final lap. No need to risk the fuel here and forget about it. Just be safe. Don't take risks. No point. There's no need to take a risk here. Just be safe on those tyres. I think Sainz has had another traffic issue. Yeah, he's just hit Tsunoda again. I think the Norris-Duran pair has broken up what was about to be an interesting situation with Verstappen and Leclerc. Leclerc obviously with ridiculous tyre saving, as we now know. But I think that's to stop the 1 second gap that they had, unfortunately. So no interesting thing between Verstappen and Leclerc on that final lap, as Mick's about to start his final lap. Pierre's about to win the race, so we'll go on board with him. Finishes this race 7.5 seconds ahead of Sainz. Never looked like not being first, really. A win in Monaco for Pierre Gasly. That's one for the memories. My driver won. I mean, literally like one of 3 replays we've had today, so we might as well watch it. Start to finish, looked imperious. There we are. I'll be honest, I didn't know this camera was a thing. I only found out that camera was a thing when we watched Leclerc last time. Right, so Mick, we've still got to pay attention to. He hasn't finished his lap. I think as soon as we get to the tunnel, we'll just stick that fuel up and deploy as well.
Stop lifting coast.
Just make sure Perez doesn't have any ideas. I don't know if his tyres are any better. I think, weirdly, they've got the same kind of tyre conserving smoothness attribute, which makes no sense because Perez should be the best in the world, but we'll take it. And Gasly did indeed lap up to Norris as predicted. Magnussen getting a point, though. A good result from him in the end. I mean, I'll take 8th for Mick, actually, at Monaco, considering he started 11th, 3 places up, but Monaco is impressive.
Nice checker flag.
Right, so
Great.
yeah, shame about Vettel just being a maniac. That's going to be a frosty family reunion, isn't it? Well, effective family reunion. I'll get out of the way. For Pierre, I mean, it's a short ride home for him, isn't it? I was about to say, like Leclerc and a few others, knows these streets on the back of his hand, I imagine. What a win for Pierre in Monaco, though. Sainz second. Yeah, obviously not the most exciting of races, but 26 points. 27 points because he got pole. Now fastest lap at the end. So a 27 maximum points for Pierre Gasly in the toughest race of the season, really. Mick Schumacher, sorry, Singapore was the toughest, I guess, but Mick 8 from, well, 10th actually, started 10th, qualified 11th. Doing obviously prevented getting points despite qualifying in the top 10 by taking a penalty in Monaco, which put him 11th to start with. You couldn't write it for Jack Doohan, really, could you? You couldn't write it. The track where it's almost impossible to overtake, they put him outside of the top 10 via a penalty. I mean, Pierre? I mean, I say it every race. We're now, what, 7 races in? Yeah, 7. Starting to run away with it. I still think Red Bull and Ferrari are going to come back into this, but Mick with 4 points, it's still, ironically, more than the next best person. But we only gained 1 net point over Ferrari, thanks to the fastest lap. Haas gained another singular point to get 2 points clear of AlphaTauri in 6th. That is a very disparate group from here downwards, though, isn't it? Red Bull 80 points ahead of Mercedes, who are simultaneously effectively double Alpine, who are then triple Haas. Pierre gets 807 points for winning the Monaco Grand Prix because he doesn't overtake. No successful overtakes, no successful defends, no failed overtakes, and 1 failed defend. I think that's counted him coming out of the pit lane sort of alongside-ish Russell as a failed defend. Whereas young Mick here actually made 5 overtakes in Monaco. 5! So despite finishing 8th, he got more points in total than Pierre. Like, ignoring the growth potential, just from the race itself, Mick got more points than Pierre. Please explain this. I think F1 Manager 22 is going to have to significantly reconsider this. There definitely needs to be bonuses for winning the race and finishing position. There needs to, I think more to the point, I think there needs to be a metric of qualifying position and then finished position. So I think if you start first and finish first, and that's still more points than, say, starting 11th and finishing 10th, which is, you know, you've gained a place. Oh, and the wind tunnel's refurb. That's nice. Cherry on top, I guess. But it is actually 2 weeks until Azerbaijan. I say recording this on Azerbaijan weekend, but 2 things happen between then and now. One of those is side pod design complete along with rear wing research, which one of those things is side pod design, and the other is rear wing research. The weather centre's back to 100% before Azerbaijan as well, but I'm not expecting dodgy weather there. So yeah, I guess new side pods is a thing. Minuscule upgrade, but so we do Azerbaijan and Canada with those new side pods before the new underfloor is sorted before Britain. So side pods done there. I think I've said it before, we might be able to sneak in a no wind tunnel hours suspension maybe before the ATR period reopens again. Again, minuscule upgrades, but every little helps, particularly with brake cooling and things like that, where we are massively off the pace compared to everyone else. Should say, did get the skying back on these presumably new gen drivers, and interestingly, growth potential high for Marcia and the other one. I can't remember who it was now, but aggression average, growth potential high. They're only 55 rated as things stand to begin with, which I think is part of an issue. So kind of pay attention to their development. I would love to sign a new gen, but I don't think we'll ever go far enough into the save to do that. Lorenzo Mancini is the other one, but exactly the same, actually. Aggression average, growth potential high. His reactions are... Well, that's it for Monaco. A sensational Pierre. Much better than his time in Azerbaijan, as we're about to head there. Let's hope he doesn't have the same issues in the game as he is doing in real life. That would really put a dampener on winning the Monaco Grand Prix, wouldn't it? To turn up at Baku and then have a shocker. It might be the race, though, I take the first round of penalties for Pierre, because it is, of course, one of those races where things can happen. And he is going to need to do it sooner rather than later. So it could be a tactical decision to do it here, because quite frankly, there doesn't appear to be a race, an obvious race where we're going to have an issue. Unless there's a wild, decides not to come back into the pit lane and runs out of fuel situation again. Unless there's a crazy thing like that again. I don't think Pierre's ever going to really be in a position to go, that's a poor qualifying. We'll take the penalties now and being opportunistic. So I think we're going to have to be proactive rather than reactive in that respect. But if you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe. Football Manager, again, on Wednesday going forward. I think maybe from next week onwards, Football Manager might be Tuesday and Friday alongside the F1 of Monday and Thursday. But for this week, F1 Monday, next race Baku Friday, FM on Wednesday. So like, comment, subscribe, enjoy the Football Manager. If you do like Football Manager as well, that's on Wednesday this week. Will change next week, I think. I'm pretty certain on it. So that's it from me. Until next race, ta-ra.